Welcome to The Walk. In this episode, conversation with Lisa Thompson. Life Together with Tyler Gibbs. This is the podcast for May 20th, 2021.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Walk Podcast. Glad you are with us today. Hey, before we get going too far, let me ask you, if you haven't already, would you please subscribe on whatever venue it is that you are digesting this podcast? YouTube, if you're listening to it on one of the podcast channels, please subscribe. That'll help us out a lot. If you're on YouTube, click on the bell if you have subscribed, and you'll get alerted every time we post something new. We are pumped. You're here today. Let me introduce myself. I'm Scott. Let me introduce the rest of the gang. Tyler's here. Shamaegan's here. Jeremy is here. Charlie the dog is also here, and he may make an appearance pretty quick like here. I see him kind of wandering around in the background back there.
He's thinking about it.
He's thinking about it. So, hey, today we were just kind of talking just a few seconds ago before we started rolling this. You are about to move, Tyler.
Yeah, I am in the process of packing. I spent most of yesterday kind of getting everything kind of organized. My dining room is floor to ceiling, boxes and tubs and all that jazz.
And the very cool thing is you're moving out of this rental property into a new one, but moving into that rental property is Shamaegan and her husband Lawson about to move in.
Yep.
Have you told him to, move on, get out?
Not yet. We're getting there. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
I was asking you, obviously, off camera, if you'd ever seen Ferris Bueller at the very, very end, and you had not. And Jeremy, neither of you.
No.
But Tyler,
Yeah.
you have. Way before Marvel. I mean, like the 1990s, I think is when Ferris Bueller came out. Before Marvel was doing like end of credit scenes, Ferris Bueller actually did one, which was crazy because there would be very few people that would have stayed in the theater to watch all the credits. But if you did stay to the very end, Ferris comes out in his bath towel, I believe, and he on his head in his robe, and he's like, "What are you still doing here? Why are you in the theater? Get out, go home, leave." Which is now what you can kind of do. Tyler, get out of my house, leave, go. Which you're probably anxious to do, though, aren't you?
Oh yeah, we're ready. We're moving Monday. So, which by the time you guys watch this, will have already been moved. But I have a question. How did people find out? Because if they would have no inclination to stay for the end of the credits, was it like it came out on VHS and then when they were fast forwarding to the end of the credits is that when they found out?
The only way I knew about it was I used to work in a movie theater. And so we would, and back in the day, the films were actually on film. And so they would be on these big, huge platters.
Right.
And they would spin into the projector and then come out and you had to wait until the movie was all the way over and then re-spool the film to go back through. And so it would go through and go from platter to platter.
Got it.
And so we had to sit there. So when we saw it, we were like, whoa, because everybody would leave and we would go in and kind of wait for the last couple seconds. And then so we started telling all our friends, hey, when you come to Ferris Bueller, stay to the very end. Why would I stay to the end? It's like, because there's something cool. Everybody else, I have no idea how they found it, but
My parents just stay till the end.
I
They
suppose,
just do.
It would be like if you were like on a date that you might be motivated to stay till the very last second, but maybe not. I don't know.
Or maybe they just like looking at the credits.
Yeah, maybe.
Like some people like to see like who's like
Yeah.
the director or who, whatever.
Oh, totally.
Right.
And too, I think sometimes too, you could appreciate this. The soundtrack. If you like the music, and you
Yeah.
like who sang that song,
Right.
They always do that at the end.
Yeah, that's what my parents do. So
Yeah.
And I'm sure people like you and Caitlin, like who are in that industry a little bit, like to see those things.
And that's been a
things.
pretty cool thing with my daughter,
Yeah.
who to stay and wait to see her name on the credits on a film that she worked on, and but proud dad moments when those things happen and stuff. So, hey, well, I am really excited about the guests that we have on the podcast today. I think you guys are really going to like this conversation. This is somebody that we've known a long time. Her name is Lisa Thompson, and the stuff that we've been talking about, the righteous life and what that's really like and what it's not like. I think it's the guests that we've already had on have each kind of come from a different place and a different perspective of, in a kind of a very holistic way of what it really looks like to let Jesus be, kind of the focus point of your life. And I love too the fact that we're kind of being able to talk to like normal people, who got like normal lives. That doesn't mean everything's going good, doesn't mean everything's going bad, but they're living lives that most of us can empathize with. And Lisa's got some really cool perspective, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. So let me show it to you guys all now, okay? This is Lisa Thompson. Lisa lives in Hawaii on the beautiful garden island of Kauai. She lives there with her ohana, her family, which is her husband Tom, and her kids Mick, Melissa, and Matt. I first met Lisa through my wife Cindy. They've been friends for many, many years. Lisa has an awesome story of her spiritual walk with Jesus that she was willing to share with me. This is Lisa's journey. I am really excited today to get to talk with our guest, Lisa Thompson. Lisa and my wife, Cindy, go way, way back. And Lisa, she is a Hawaiian by way of California, or I guess you're Californian by way of Hawaii, right?
Right.
Yes. Yeah. But she's also a mom. She's a wife. More than anything, she is a follower of Jesus. And I'm really excited to talk to her today about her life. And check out, that is not, Zoom times, a lot of times we have a cool backdrop behind us, but that's not like a fake backdrop.
I can move all around and it's not going to get all weird.
That is like legit your backyard because you live on Kauai in the beautiful 50th state of Hawaii. And aloha. Lisa, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really great. I'm excited to talk to you today. First, I brought up Cindy already. She and I were talking about this. So you guys go way, way, way back to like your 20s, right? Do you remember
before that?
You remember any of those early days?
Of course. Yeah, I do. So actually, I met Cindy when I worked at Prudential Health Insurance, and she was in the claims department and I was the receptionist, and I was 18 when I started working there, and went through a really hard time in my life and got kicked out of my mom's house. And then Cindy lived in this amazing little cottage studio in Redwood City, California. And so it worked out to where she moved out because I think she had met you and she was about ready to get married and stuff. And so I think she moved back in with her family. So I was able to take over her little cottage studio. Nice. So that's but the funny thing also with Cindy is that Cindy started selling Mary Kay.
Yes.
And so she recruited me, and I was, got my mom involved in that and was like, Mom, this is the greatest thing ever. And I have to start selling this stuff. And really it was just to provide for my own makeup needs.
Yeah.
And so Cindy did really well with Mary Kay. And she was she would, arrange her little parties and do this stuff and events for us to go to. And half the time I wouldn't even show up. I mean, I remember one time I scheduled a night thing, with a bunch of ladies. I was supposed to go to this lady's house and I just didn't even show up. I was terrible. I was really terrible during those days. That was my bad,
Well, and then of course, obviously, you were in our wedding, and we're there on all those good times. And then let's just go ahead and let's talk a little bit about your faith journey to get started, because I know at that time that was about where things began to kind of ramp up for you spiritually. Can you just talk us a little bit through sort of how you came to be a follower of Jesus?
Yeah. So I was raised, my mom went to a Baptist church, Millbrae Baptist Church. And so I was raised in that home. And I'm the youngest of 9 kids. And there's a big gap between me and them because they, actually, I should just tell you this little bit of background because this is super important in my life. But my mom got married at 18, had 8 kids in 10 years. And when her oldest was 16 and her youngest was 6, her husband died. And then she married my dad and had me, and they were only married for about 2 years. So there's 9 years difference between me and the youngest and 19 between me and my oldest brother. So my brothers and sisters were wild and crazy and had all these parties and stuff. So when I was about 5 years old, they all found the Lord. And I remember, but they were very legalistic, just very, serious and, it's hell and condemn and damnation and whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember at family parties and stuff, they would be talking and I would listen to all my brothers talk and they would be, oh, we have to follow the Bible and, and it was all very serious and stern. And then they would talk about their past life and they would be laughing and going, oh, remember that time we were just wasted and, our buddy got thrown through the window at Lions and, and it was just, they were all laughing. So I saw that and I saw the difference. And I thought there's no way that I am going to live my life without experiencing those parties and that kind of wildness. And, I just went down that path of just the big party lifestyle, boyfriends, all of that business. For a long time. And when I was 18, in January of 18, and I graduated in June, and then it was the following January, 1990. My mom kicked me out because she couldn't handle me. And my mom was like, we were like this, we were super close. But at that time, I was so far beyond what she could even handle. And, it's one of the most painful parts of my life. Like when I think about that, when I think about the pain that I caused her and just all of that, it's super hard.
Yeah.
So she kicked me out and then I continued to live party lifestyle. And then when I was about 22, my second oldest brother, his name is Mick, he was diagnosed with cancer. And I talked to him a lot. I was super close with him because he was like the only one. All my brothers and sisters at that point, I didn't really have a relationship with them. And that was a hard thing too. But I was just choosing my lifestyle, my party lifestyle and all of that over wanting to be close with them.
Yeah.
But he accepted me for who I was. He never was judgmental. He was just like, and he lived in Indiana and we lived in California, but he came out every year and would spend like 2 weeks. And so he would stay with us. And, and he was just, but he was like, he was amazing. He was funny and just, like he just is one of those guys that just love you no matter what. And so he had cancer. So when I saw the peace that he had when he was going to knowing that he was going to die, and he was just like, oh, well, I'm going to just go be with the Lord. So I'm good with that. And I was like, okay, like I do not have that peace at all. And so that was probably the biggest life-changing thing for me, in the fact that at that point, I truly was seeking out the Lord with my life. Like that was, it was legit. And so then God broke my ankle, which is kind of cool. When my ankle broke, I went to go stay with my mom to recuperate. And when I was up in Auburn, I realized that, wait a second, what am I doing down in the Bay Area? Why am I even still there? So I was like, Mom, can I come and work for you and sell real estate, get my real estate license and go work for you and move back in with you? And she was like, absolutely. Because again, like my mom, we went through hard times, but she was always like my rock, my best friend, And so, so I moved back in with her, and then it was really great. And that was probably one of the biggest spiritual growth times of my life. I became a Bible study fellowship discussion leader, got really involved with that, just really studying the scriptures in depth, and just like having that love relationship with Jesus was amazing. Just, I struggled because I was single and I really wanted to be married, but Jesus was enough and he was all that I needed. And so just clinging to him, and just having him get me through all of that then I was a counselor, or I had my group of girls with my high school youth group. So I was really involved with them. And then I went back to Hume Lake as a counselor, and I met this guy. and and so he was super hot, and I was like, ooh. So he ended up moving to Hawaii, and at the in at the end of 1997. And so I totally stalked him on America Online. I would log in under my mom's account, and I would wait for him to log in. And then as soon as he did, I would go over to my, I'd wait like 5 minutes or so it wouldn't be obvious. And then I would go over and log in under my name. And then I'd be like, oh, hey, what are you doing? Nice to see you. And so we chatted on America Online, right? We would chat for hours and for months. And you know what? I printed them all out. I printed out all of those chats, which is super cool because,
You still have them?
Yeah, of course I do.
Awesome.
Absolutely. So then, I need to actually pull them out and show my kids what we did. Right. But anyway, so then we did that for a few months, and then I ended up coming to Hawaii to visit him to see if, we got along as well in person. I stayed for a couple of weeks, and then that was in February of 1998. And in March of 1998, I came back again for my birthday, and he proposed to me. Like the day I got here, the day before my 27th birthday, he proposed. And so then I was like, oh my gosh, yes, whatever. And this is a total God thing too. So I thought, well, I don't want to sell real estate in Hawaii. I want to go work for a title company. So I got my resume together, went to the first title company, was Old Republic Title in Escrow of Hawaii, and said, I just want to drop off my resume. And they said, oh, fill out an application. So I filled it out, and the assistant state manager came in and she asked me some questions, and she said, okay, she goes, when can you start? I said, I don't live here. I could probably start in October or so. And she said, well, we need you now. And I said, and she's like, okay, you go home and talk to your fiance. And it was the first time I had ever heard that word, because this is I had just gotten proposed to. This is 4 days later, I'm getting a job offer. She said, come back in 2 days, talk to our state manager, whatever. That night I had dinner at one of my distant relatives' house that I hadn't even seen in years, whatever, but they happened to live a few blocks away from where Tom lived. So I had dinner, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, because I just got proposed to, and I just got this job offer, and, I don't know, what I'm going to do. And she goes, she's like, you can live here while you're, move here now, you can move in with us. So I had a place to live, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I was like, Lord, what are you doing?
Okay. That's what I was going to ask you. So obviously today you can look back at all of those things and see God's hand in them. Were you at the time, were you recognizing that God was kind of opening doors for you?
Absolutely. It was totally God. I mean, it was totally what he was doing, I mean, he I knew that it was him providing this way for me to, just providing the job, the place to live. It was a whirlwind of craziness of having, I went back to California. I had 5 weeks to plan my wedding and, close out my real estate office, pack to move. I mean, I moved to Hawaii with suitcases, didn't bring anything.
And for the uninitiated who live in Oklahoma, that is not an easy thing to do, to move to Hawaii with just suitcases.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think I had 2. And then every time I went back, I would bring empty suitcases with me back to California and fill them up and come back. But so it was, it was cool. And it was good that we were able to have this summer, because we got married 6 months later. We got married in September, and it was crazy. We got married, and after being married for 5 months, Tom got laid off. And then but I had this amazing, wonderful job, and it was, but I always thought that we would only be in Hawaii for a couple of years. And that was a real struggle, because after we had lived there for 2 years, and it was hard. Like it was hard getting married. I mean, I was 27, he was 30. It was a huge adjustment. And without having Jesus in the middle of it, I mean, it was like the struggle of newly married people. It's hard, and especially when you're older and you have, I mean, I wasn't 18 or 20 or whatever. When you have, just, I don't know, you're set in your ways kind of, and then you have to merge your ways. It was a really hard adjustment.
Well, this is good. Let's segue into becoming the Thompson Ohana, right?
Okay.
So
we were married for 5 years before we had kids, and we had our first and our second and our third. So our oldest is Mick, and he is 16, almost 17. He'll be 17 on June 27th. Melissa just turned 15. And then we have Matt, who has Down syndrome, and he's 11. And it's been crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I homeschooled them for most of their life, up until Mick hit 8th grade. Melissa was 6th. Matt actually started going to school for kindergarten, because when we moved to Kauai, I mean, there's a couple more struggles. Can I tell you about a couple more struggles? And if you don't like it, you can edit them
No,
out.
I think that's really important.
Yeah. So when we, okay, well, first of all, with moving to, when we lived on Oahu and we were going to buy a house, right? We bought a townhouse, and that was like, I was really upset about that, because I thought, no, why are we buying something in Hawaii? We need to go back to California. And it was never God's will for us to move back to California. And I really struggled with that, because there was times when it seemed like, okay, Lord, here's your perfect opportunity to move us back to California. And, one of the reasons I think why we waited to have kids for so long was because I wanted to be back with my family, with my mom, before we ever had kids. And then God said no. And he kept saying no. He said, and so it was, I argued with him about that a lot. And I would get mad at him, and I'd be like, Lord, what are you doing? Like, this is my heart, right? I mean, this is my heart's desire, and I am following you. I am seeking you, and you're going to give me my heart's desire. But what I've realized about our heart's desire is that when we're in tune with what the Lord wants us, our desire is his will in our life. And when we follow his will, and we may not like it at the time, and it's hard sometimes when he says, no, this is not my will. But then we figure out, okay, you know what? My desire is truly to be aligned with his will. And then we just get so blessed, right? I mean, then he blesses us exceedingly abundantly beyond what we could ever ask or imagine, because we're in his will, and that's our desire. Yeah. And so I think about that, like, if we, whatever, like when you think about what your desires are, it's like, no, I mean, my full on desire is just to be wherever God wants me to be. And then he blesses us. And then we see, okay, this is a blessing to be here. And this is a blessing to follow him in this way, even though it's hard and we didn't want to, but this is my desire. Yeah. So we lived on Oahu, had our kids. And then 2013, Tom's job, he ended up getting a really great job. This is another thing. He ended up getting a really great job at a seed company that enabled me to quit my job working for the title company. And then I could be a stay-at-home mom. So that was an amazing thing that we got. I mean, this job totally provided for us, more than we needed or whatever, like with all the benefits and everything. Well, that amazing job moved us to Kauai in 2013. And that again I was like, no way, I do not want to move to Kauai. I homeschool. I have a kid with Down syndrome. There's no resources, or very few resources over here. But again, I was like, okay, Lord, this is your opportunity. I know you're moving me back to California. And Woodland, California, they had a spot in his company we could have transferred to, and God kept closing those doors, And again, I mean, it's where we have to just trust in the Lord with all of our heart and lean not on our own understanding. My understanding was, okay, Lord, this is your plan. This is your will. We're going back to California. Yeah. And he said, no, my ways are not your ways. My plans are not your plans. Mm-hmm. My plans are bigger than you. So we moved to Kauai in 2013. bought a 2-bedroom house that looked like it was falling down. But it was on 3/4 of an acre and it's a block away from the ocean. So my husband, who's a horticulturist, was like, no, we got to get this house. So we bought the house and we remodeled it and made it into a 4-bedroom and made it lovely. Like you've been here. And I love my house now. We love it. It's really nice. And we love our property and everything. So 2014 came and my mom, who had Parkinson's, she was super sick. And it was like a really hard few months of her being sick and not feeling well. And, she had some surgeries, but it didn't work. And so she ended up dying. And me and my kids went to Auburn, stayed there for 6 weeks. And she died the day that I got there. She died in my arms. She took her last breath. The moment that I saw her, I ran to her. She was in a rehab bed thing. And I just grabbed her and hugged her and she took her last breath and then she was gone. So 6 weeks in Auburn was amazing and stuff. But when I came home right before Christmas, because she died October 29th, and I came home a couple of weeks before Christmas, I was in a really bad place because I had lost her. I had lost my best friend. I didn't know what I was going to do. At that point, I was still homeschooling my kids and even Matt at that point. And I had nothing to give. Well, then February 15th, my husband's dad died and he was really close with him. And my husband was a mess. And then on February 27th, Tom lost his job. And so here we were. Yeah. I mean, my mom died, his dad died, he lost his job. And both of us were like, we were just going like that. I mean, it was just, it was the worst time ever. Like, it was really bad. We were not getting along at all. We were not nice to each other. It was pretty toxic, and it got to the point where this one day we had it out in our garage. And it's funny because he doesn't even remember this conversation, but we were, both of us, and I'm like, are you kidding? And so he says he does, but, both of us were like, okay, we don't want to get a divorce. That's where we're headed if we continue in this, because neither one of us can live like this. And so we said, okay, we've got to get the Lord back in the middle of our relationship, because we had both just separated from each other, gone away from each other, and we've got to get back together and we've got to, do this. And so we both said, okay, we're going to try, we're both going to give, even though we have nothing to give, we have to give. And so we did. And we just, really prayed together and just clung to Jesus during that time for him to get us through that. And what he did was absolutely amazing, what the Lord did. He just revived our marriage in such a way that Tom was laid out. He didn't work for 5 months and we had like a 5-month honeymoon. I mean, it was amazing. It was great because, in the beginning it was like, we had to work at it and, but then it was like we fell in love with each other. And that is such a testimony to the Lord, because if it wasn't for him, if it wasn't for just clinging to Jesus to get us through and knowing, okay, Lord, you want us to get through this. You put us together. You want to bless our marriage. And so we just open up ourselves to you. It's your will, Lord, and every day it was a daily thing of, help me to love my husband in the way that you would want me to love him. And so it was figuring out, things like, just putting his needs above my own. But the thing is then he was putting my needs above his. So it just worked out. And it was, really, truly just seeking the Lord for our marriage. And then we just got super blessed with it.
It's totally that's just beautiful. And it just makes me think of two things. The first, just listening to everything you've talked about, from your story and the way that God kind of claimed you and held on to you and you ultimately submitted to him. I hear a lot of I don't know if you're intentional about it, but it's just, there's a lot of scripture that, just kind of is being lived out by you. And then secondly, I hear you giving credit and glory to God as you look on your life and you look at your family, you look at your marriage, you look at just, it's when I say your family, I mean, whether it's, your children and your husband, whether it's the relationships you have with your brothers and sisters, whether it's one that you have with your mom, just the way that God was the glue for all of that. Right. And what would you say to the random person that, not only doesn't know me, doesn't know you, and somehow stumbles onto this podcast and says, well, how do you really know that was God that did all that? And aren't you giving this religious pie in the sky thing too much credit? I mean, that was you, girl. I mean, what would you say? I mean, how do you respond to that person that's watching this and thinks, really?
Okay, so the thing is that Jesus changes you from the inside. And I've had so many moments in my life where I'm at the end. I have nothing left. There is nothing in me. I don't even want to live. Or, well, I mean, it's not that I've ever, considered not living, but I mean, I have nothing. I can't deal with having teenage kids, having a kid with Down syndrome, having difficult times in my marriage, not being able to be with my family. I mean, the stress of life is, has definitely been there. And at those moments, when you just say, Jesus, I can't do this. This is not, I cannot do this on my own. You got to do something. You got to step in. It is amazing what he does. He changes your heart and he gets into your head and he starts, when you start thinking, and especially, yes, scripture is definitely a huge part of my life because I have to think about these things and I'll find verses that I'll cling to during times. It's like when you find those encouraging verses or whatever, the Psalms, when you're down and out, you think about the Psalms, you think about what David has gone through. And even, if I'm in a sinful situation, because I know that, my thoughts are not right. My attitude is not right. The words that I'm speaking to my husband or my children or whoever is not okay. And then I'm convicted by that. So the Holy Spirit is amazing and he is alive and well. When you say, Holy Spirit, take over, please, he does. You just have to open up you just have to say that. You just got to be like, okay, Lord, I can't do this on my own. You got to come in and take over. And he does. And so he changes our heart. I mean, it's absolutely like when I'm feeling really just agitated and just like, I can't deal with people or I can't deal with my situation, whatever it is. And I'm like, Lord, if I just say, Lord, help me to do this, help me to love this person, even though I want to be really mad at them. And even though whatever, he does. And your heart changes and you can feel it. Like it's a physical, like you can feel when you are letting Jesus take over, you absolutely feel that, like physically. I mean, at least I do. And so, and then afterwards, you're like, wow, Lord, you totally changed my heart. And then the situation, it worked out. And maybe it didn't work out the way I wanted it to, but my heart was okay. And even though I didn't get the response that I wanted or whatever, I was okay with it because I knew that this is something that Jesus was having me learn from or, wanting me to grow from, right? I mean, he definitely puts us through the fire to refine us. And so he's definitely all
awesome.
there, all through everything. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's awesome.
So Lisa's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I think Hawaii would be a really interesting place to live.
Yeah.
This just the difference in climate and just culture. And you were telling us a little bit about the island that she lives on. I can't remember. You said there's something unique about it compared to all the other islands. Like it's like residential only. Like you can't go like.
No, actually, that's the island directly north
Okay.
from her is
Okay.
Niihau, which is you have to be a Hawaiian Islander
Got it.
to go there. No, but Kauai is interesting in that it's called the Garden Island, and it is a whole different pace than say Oahu, which is where she was lived first. That has Honolulu on it. And Honolulu is a major metropolitan area. Kauai is much more. Well, it's island. I mean, it really, really is. And so, I think that has factored in a lot to her just view of life and her, her friends and her community, and obviously her family and their faith and everything.
Yeah.
So,
I thought it was really interesting. She said it more than once. She said, Lord, this is your opportunity to move us.
Yeah.
And I was like, that got me thinking about Sunday. We were talking about how we can't, that's putting God in a box, saying, hey, this is your opportunity to do something. Whereas we should be, like she said later on, it's like we need to be in tune with his will, and we need to take the opportunity to live in his will and ask him to do those things and just wait on him. So I thought that was really cool.
yeah. Shamaegan, what are your thoughts?
If they have a spare bedroom, I'd like to move in. I've always wanted to go to Hawaii. I'm a lover of plants and everything green and tropical. And so I went to Florida once, but Hawaii is definitely calling my name. So I think that it's a beautiful place to live, and there's so many different opportunities. And whenever she was saying, like, this is your opportunity to move us to California, I just was like, why do you want to leave? But obviously, like, everyone is like, my plan is better. My family is there. There are things that she had like connections to still in California, but being able to say like, no, this isn't my plan is really hard, and being able to adjust, because like, I'm sure that's a huge difference. I've never been in California either, but just between the two is really different. But being able to notice, like she was like visually saying, this is not what I wanted, and being able to say like, but somehow it's all going to work out is amazing. So that's something that really resonated with me, is because I want to be like, no, this isn't what I pictured, but somehow, some way, God knows something better.
Yeah. Yeah. Jeremy, how about you, man?
That's exactly what I was thinking as we were watching that. A lot of times God has this plan for us, and, we have our own plans, and things, they don't work out the way that we think they're going to. And we look back at it, a few years, whatever, down the road, and we're like, okay, God, I see why you did that, why it happened. And you can kind of see it in her life. And just kind of goes to show you always have to have faith in God and follow his plan.
Yeah. I mean, I think what I love the most about Lisa's just outlook on life is that she's not angry. I mean, I look at so many times in my life, and you're right. I mean, I kind of did talk about this on Sunday morning at our church service, that, we've got a very short fuse with God. We give him about 30 seconds to do what we want him to do. And if he doesn't do it the way and the time and just, everything just exactly, we're ready to move on. We're even sometimes ready to say, I don't even know if I believe in him anymore. And if I do believe in him, I don't know if I want to follow him anymore. And, I love that Lisa has learned that, and it's about trust, right? That, okay, if God says no, that doesn't mean A, that he doesn't exist, and B, that he doesn't love me. Matter of fact, him saying no, if I give him a chance, is ultimately going to be the proof that I need that he does exist. Because, I, like Shamaegan, you were saying, I would have done it totally different.
Yeah.
I think most of us living in Oklahoma would say, let's move to Hawaii.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But, the weird thing is, there's there's a phrase for it. They call it island fever. I don't know if you've ever heard that, but you do get kind of, you don't get claustrophobic per se, but when you're on a
trapped.
little island and you can't go any place, outside, you get on an airplane or a boat, you do feel, trapped.
Yeah.
And, and not just physically, spiritually. And yet she's learned to trust him and see that, he is real and he does reveal himself. And then that her attitude is actually like, okay, this is going to be ultimately a chance for God to show me that he loves me. And it's really also, I think, such a cool thing to see somebody, because when you're asking, can I trust God? Can I trust him that he's going to be there for me? To be able to see somebody who has said, I trusted him, and I can tell you my story, and I can give you like some evidence if you look at my life, and look.
I was just thinking, like, when she was talking about her marriage and the problems they had when they finally put Jesus back in the center of everything, they were making sacrifices, and I think it kind of goes into what we were talking about. Like, trust is a big part of it, but also out of trust, we have to sacrifice our ego in any relationship, but especially in our relationship with Jesus. I mean, we have to sacrifice what we want, what we think we need, sacrificing our ego so that we can just lay down and say, okay, it's hard, but I'm going to trust you. I'm going to put myself to the side. I'm going to humble myself, and let you be in control.
Yeah, and she said, she was saying from her perspective that she didn't like it, and she even opened up and said, you may not like doing this, but you get to that place where you realize that, well, you will when you see how good God is and what he does for you. And I don't know if the three of you have ever been in a place where you realized, I've got to do something that I don't like doing with God, but it's hard.
It is hard.
Yeah.
Well, as a newlywed, I really respected her being transparent about marriage, because marriage is hard. And having that commitment, waking up every single day and saying, well, I may not have anything else to give, but I love this person, and even when I don't like them, I love them, and I have to put forth effort, because it's not like I wake up and marriage is not always rainbows and butterflies, and sometimes it's just outright difficult, or you just want to strangle that person for 30 seconds, and you're just like, how does God do this with me every day? No questions asked. No, he'll watch me do something I shouldn't probably do, or, say something or think something. And he's just like, well, the next thought is something different. I love you and I forgive you. Let's do better. Let's do this together. And so being able to be married, but also see God's love for me, is what I strive to be in your marriage, but it's not always perfect. Right. So I really respect the transparency, because a lot of people are like, when I get married, it's not gonna be hard, or and we all have that expectation of something. Like, you have a dream, you have a vision of what you want your life to look like, and you usually pick out the good things, and don't think, oh, this awful thing or this hard thing is gonna happen to me. Yeah. But you have to think about, when something bad, when a storm comes, how am I going to react to that? Right. So, and I really like that she was able to explain her reactions, because that's huge. It's the teachable moment. And that
she, both she and Tom were able to say, okay, we need Jesus in his power because we don't have it.
Yes, and absolutely.
And instead of trying to put the blame on each other, they said the blame. They both said, this is on me. Yeah. And then we're going to put Jesus in the middle to make it, to fix it.
And I love, honestly, it was from a place of desperation. I mean, and again, that's that transparency you're talking about. I mean, for a season, she was like, it is about you, Tom. And Tom was like, it is about you, Lisa. But then she realized, no, I'm the one, because of what's not gone right, with my mom. And then Tom saying the same thing with his dad, and then his job. But then for them to realize, okay, what we have, we don't want to lose what we have. So let's turn to God to renew and strengthen us. And a new day came. That's awesome. Well, hey, listen, just let me throw something else out at you guys. Speaking of new days, sometimes you have a new day. It's like, you get to celebrate the days that have come before. And we had, the three of us had the benefit of a anniversary that happened with you, Tyler, and not necessarily even just your anniversary like with Raina, but your anniversary with us. Yeah. We celebrated this last week your second anniversary at Discover, which is crazy, isn't it? That it's in 2 years.
Yeah, I know. It's been, and the last year has been this weird COVID doing stuff differently than what you'd ever think we were supposed to do. And, you know, we've talked, like, at my 1 year anniversary last year, we were like, man, isn't it just weird that we're doing stuff the way we are? Like, you just, when you started, would you have thought that we'd be doing church completely online, and you would have had to learn how to do live streaming and all this kind of stuff? Yeah. And I was like, nobody thought they were going to have to be doing this. So it's just, it's been this learning curve, and I've just been like constantly learning for 2 years. And I've in a lot of ways, I've come a long way in these last 2 years. A lot of ways.
All of us have, but, you know, I'm just, on that note, I'm constantly blown away at just how much both you and Jeremy, you know, your job descriptions changed overnight, and you had to learn all these new skills. And then now we've mixed Shamaegan into the flow here. But with regard to just all you've gone through in your journey, I thought it would be totally fun for this week's or this episode's, you know, Life Together, to take Shamaegan, who's known you for years and years, and say, Shamaegan, go find out what Tyler does when, I mean, we see you on stage or we see you on screen, and, you know, you're singing those songs, and, you know, just think, oh, he just obviously just gets up there and does that. But no, you throw a whole lot into it. So
much more.
Yeah. So Shamaegan went and visited you at the house that's about to be her house. Yep. It's still kind of yours. And let's see what that looked like.
Today for Life Together, I decided to go see Tyler Gibbs and celebrate his 2nd anniversary with Discover Church and see what he does behind the scenes. Hi, friend.
How are you doing?
I'm Shamaegan.
Hi, I'm Tyler.
So good to see you.
You too. Come on in, stranger.
Oh, yeah. All right, so where are we going?
So this is my home office. This is where I spend most of my time.
What part of music is your favorite part?
My favorite part of music, I'd probably say like making it. I feel like is the best part. I would have said playing music was the best part.
Yeah.
But I think actually creating and writing and just making the music and doing all that kind of stuff has been my new favorite over the last couple of years.
When was the first time that you ever felt like you had a passion, a talent, a hobby, that you could see yourself pursuing this lifelong journey of it both being a career but also a lifelong journey into your walk with Jesus?
So I grew up in a family of musicians.
Yes.
Everybody, both my grandparents on my dad's side, my grandparents on my mom's side, everybody is a musician in my family. The first worship song I ever learned was Forever by Chris Tomlin, and that's a throwback. And when I was in high school, I was called to worship ministry, and I got to lead in the youth group. And at the end of my freshman year, so I was just like, okay, I need to commit to this. And so I moved back to Marlowe, went to Cameron, and got to be really involved with the church that I was at, and eventually became the intern, and then wound up here at Discover.
You work with Scott a lot, and you guys do a lot of things like hand in hand per se.
Yeah.
How do you guys plan it?
He prays over the service and I pray over the service, like on our own individually throughout the week. And then we both plan, and then the Holy Spirit just kind of guides everything together. I'm sitting there through the whole sermon like, oh gosh, the song we're about to sing is perfect for this. I mean, an example was, just this last Sunday, you know, I felt like we did Till I Found You, and I just feel like that kind of just was just perfect. That Sunday was a perfect example of that happening. And like I said, it's just the Holy Spirit working in both of us separately, together.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
To be able to lead our church the way that we're supposed to.
Oh, that was good. That was good. So Shamaegan, how was that going and doing all that?
It was fun to hang out with Tyler for a day. We've done that multiple times, but not just like in his zone. I've watched him record for church. I've watched him, work on things. I'll be hanging out with Raina, and he's like, I gotta go to work. And he shuts his office door, and we're like, well, and it's just interesting because growing up, I was like this little kid that was like, whenever I watch someone sing at church, I'd be like, whoa, they just did that. Like, you know, and I was like 6. So I was like, they're not practicing. They're not, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're not putting in all this extra effort. They're just like getting up there and it looks effortless. And like, that's Tyler. Like, he's wonderful. He's musically talented. Always has been. In high school, he sang one time in church in Marlow. And I remember everyone was like, Tyler can sing. And I was like.
And it was right after that Wednesday night, the first time I sang it. Or no. Anyway, they asked me to be Daddy Warbucks and Annie.
Did you shave your head?
No.
I would do it again. Because the next question would have been, and do we have pictures?
Yes. And, you know, so like that was like the beginning of me knowing that Tyler had a gift. And now I'm like, every week he's using that for God. Every week he's connecting that with his spirituality. And I think that it's a wonderful thing.
Very cool. So in that vein, Tyler, what are we going to do for worship today?
We are doing The One. It's by Mosaic MSC, and it's been a song that I heard for the first time at a camp a few years ago. And we've been doing it kind of off and on since over the last year. But, you know, I really like it. I mean, the chorus is, don't stop, let your heart change me and all my love and all my heart. And I think that's kind of a testament to what, you know, we were talking about with Lisa, is that, you know, we have to be constantly giving God the opportunity giving him the opportunity, but letting us have the opportunity to let God change us every day in our love and our hearts and how we interact with others, and just to let him lead us into a new day, like you were just talking earlier. So, yeah.
Coming out from the darkness, turning back to you, to a love that is stronger. He calls me from within, and now I rest in your goodness, and I will trust your hand. I will cling to your promise to make me new again. Don't stop, let your love, let your heart change me, and all my love and all my heart. Don't stop, you are the one I want. Don't stop, let your love, let your heart change me, and all my love and all my heart. Don't stop, you're the one I want. And I can see how you're moving. You healed my heart of stone. I can see how you walk with me, and I never go alone. Don't stop, let your love, let your heart change me, and all my love and all my heart. Don't stop, you are the one I want. Don't stop, let your love, let Father, move us. Spirit, lead us to a new place, to a new day. Father, move us. Spirit, lead us to a new place, to a new day. Father, move us. Spirit, lead us to a new place, into a new day. Father, move us. Spirit, lead us to a new place, to a new day. Father, move us. Spirit, lead us to a new place, to a new day. Don't stop. Let your love, let your heart change me. And all my love and all my heart. Don't stop. You are the one I want. Don't stop. Let your